All right, Sam. Well, thanks again for joining me. I'm excited to do this. And when I was a kid, I really had a thing about going to Canada. And that mainly arose because of two cartoon TV shows. One of them was called Chaotic, and the other one was Martin Mystery, which you were a part
Ah,
of.
right.
Um, it's no exaggeration when I say that Martin Mystery was really one of my favorite cartoon TV shows growing up. Me and my siblings must have seen every episode at least twice.
Wow.
Tell me about that time when you were involved with it. How did you get involved?
Martin Mystery, that was, yeah, that was a while. It's been a while now, but that one show it was just another show that I auditioned for, and I as I became to understand the show, how it started as a comic book, um, and then the character Martin Mystery and the producer David of this show, who I got to meet a couple times, and his co-producer Jenny, which were awesome people. Talking to them and their love for that IP, and also loving anime as well, because you can definitely see it in the animation influences of anime in that show, where the characters would go into some very specific type of anime tropes, when they get upset with the little tears coming out of them, or
Yes.
they go all chibi. So it was unique in that way. That was kind of a first show that I'd done that was kind of like a blend of kind of using some kind of anime style within the show. And I thought it was cool, and I was very excited to do the show because the shows that I grew up watching, well, comes to mind like shows like Scooby Doo and Johnny Quest. It was kind of like this nice mash of, you know, well, it was paranormal investigating, but it kind of had that vibe, like Scooby Doo investigating ghosts or all sorts of phenomena. I just love that style of show, and it was fun, and working with Kelly as my stepsis, she was a lot of fun to work with, and Dale Wilson playing Java, who just passed away this year. He was great to work with, and I got to play Billy too. So I got to be like, oh, Martin, probably shouldn't go in that cave. It looks scary. It was like, come on, Job, we got to do this. There's lots of slime everywhere. This is gonna be awesome. So it was a lot of fun to work on, and and of course Terrell Rothery, who played Mom, was great too. It was just a fun show. It was a great show. I loved the way I loved the whole vibe of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. The way you just jumped into the voices. I mean, that was really something. But
Yeah, they're still in there, yeah.
yeah, you're right though about the elements of that show. I remember I think the allure for that TV show in particular for me was it was just scary enough for a kid. So you were always
Right.
sitting at the edge of the seat and you're always interested. It was just scary enough. You wouldn't have
Yeah.
nightmares, but you'd be really wrapped up into the stories. And there were really unique stories too, every episode. Every episode was very interesting plot. It was different too. Didn't
Yeah, and
seem
were you which network or station, let's say, were you watching it on back in the day when this was a thing, stations and networks?
when I was first exposed to it, I was in Austin and I watched it on Nickelodeon.
Oh,
But then when I
Nickelodeon.
moved to Houston, it stopped running. But I remembered the show, and so I saw all the episodes on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. Because in Canada, it was running on a show called on a network called YTV, and it was just playing every day, episodically every day. So there were a lot of kids up here who are getting a big dose of Martin Mystery. So for a while, it was a big thing for kids, like that kind of that show, because they were seeing it every day after school, and got a lot of feedback from kids on that one, and it was
Yeah.
fun. It was a
And
lot of fun.
like teachers, you've shaped so many childhoods. How often do people come up to you about that show in particular? versus the other stuff that you've been a part of?
Well, the thing is because I've lived in Canada my whole life, and we have different broadcasters and things like that, and I'm always curious how people are watching. Like, I know a lot of the stuff that I was doing ended up on like Disney XD and things like that. But like Martin Mystery, I really didn't know until you told me that it was on Nickelodeon. So up here. Obviously, I knew when I talked to kids, and also like my stepson at the time was young, and so when dropped him off at school, he could kind of say that my dad's Martin Mystery or whatever. So it was kind of that kind of cool thing. Like right when he was grade 5, 6, it was on the air. So it was like, that was kind of the cool thing that Martin Mystery was on. Um, so yeah, I didn't even know where we were going with that question, but basically, I it's a little different. So I never got a lot of feedback from people living, let's say, in the United States, but now there are some people out there who are like, "Don't forget Martin Mystery. I love that show." Because not everybody knows about Martin Mystery, but the people who watched it were like really into it, really into it.
Yeah. And it was genuinely good stuff. The reason I asked that question was because it always fascinates me about artists and creatives that they can create something and not know how far the influence extends. Like Soren Kierkegaard, who lived hundreds of years ago, could write a book and it could reach me now in Houston, Texas, all these years later, but he'd never know about that. And similarly, you made this wonderful show all these years ago, but this is the first time we're having any interaction and you're seeing that I'm someone that it really had an effect on. It always fascinates me. And I think teachers are like that as well, where they educate children and most times they don't really see how that effect manifests in the world. They just taught you for a year and you move on. But if those students come back and tell you, hey, I learned a lot from you, thanks. It's that feeling, that moment is really unique. So it's interesting that, yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I would say it's it's just more it's the ability to communicate through social media with other people and interact is just like instantaneous now. And if people know how to access you through social media, you're going to get more of those messages. So for me, back in the day, when Martin Mystery first came out, there just wasn't the same level of interaction with people. So I was getting most of my feedback from kids at that time. And now, just in the last year or two, just because started to do more conventions and meeting people face to face and getting to hear those stories more and more from people about how they more of their childhood stories. A lot of nice, beautiful stories about people telling me whatever the show, whether it's Martin Mystery or if it's Ed, Ed and Eddie or whatever it is, how they really really impacted them, or they really got a lot out of it. And for some people who are dealing with a lot of stress and trauma in their life, that was their little moment to escape and get some joy out of life. So that always makes you feel good, that it's not just frivolous. It's something that actually really, really can make an impact on people. So that's always nice to hear.
yeah. I think it was my generation that was sort of the transitioning in between kids that would play outside versus kids that stay at home and just are locked to their devices. And a sweet memory I have, again, going back to Martin Mystery, is that's something that would bring me and my siblings together. Those are the memories I look back at, like, oh yes, we used to sit together specifically to watch this show. Um,
That's
when you
great.
look, yeah, you've obviously been a part of so many different projects. It's not uncommon that a person works on something and they think, hey, this was fantastic, but maybe the world doesn't receive it the way you would like. Has that discrepancy ever happened to you? And how do you deal with that? Like, oh, I thought it would have done better. And then something else is really amazing, but you didn't expect it to do as amazing as it did.
Well, I mean, I think. I think it might hit a little harder for the actual creators of the show. That I mean, obviously, I want success for every show that I'm on. Coming in as a voice actor on a show, you go, oh, really? There's a couple of things that I've really worked on that didn't really get any legs and go anywhere, but I was just very, very happy and proud, just professionally speaking, to have worked on that show. And kind of when it'll be like if I mention it now, if someone watches this, there was a show that we did through Nerdcore called Endangered Species, and it was a story of three animals living in this tree trunk together, and it was kind of just there was nothing. It was like pure just animation storytelling. There was no toy selling involved. It was just three characters. Kind of, I felt like it had that classic Looney Tunes kind of vibe to it, where I played a squirrel, Merle the squirrel, and there was a bunny. I think it was Sunny the bunny, and then there was Merle the seagull, and I was doing it with Tabitha St. Germain, who's one of the best voice actors in the world, playing this character, and same with Lee Tokar, who's just amazing actor. And we was just us being crazy and having so much fun doing this show. And I think maybe we did 26 episodes and it never got picked up. But that's like one show that I just loved doing, and I wish that it would have gotten more love because I just had such a blast doing it, and I thought it was really funny. And then another show that I really enjoyed doing, and it wasn't that it didn't do well, it was just not, it didn't really get a lot of airplay in the United States because I guess the United States is the biggest market, so it's always about the audience viewership there. It was called Class of the Titans, and that was shown in Canada quite frequently, and also I believe Australia. I think they had distro deals with Australia as market and Canada, and but I don't know about how well it did in America or got a network deal down there. But it was all the classic Greek archetypes, but in modern time, and we all were like related to my character Archer was related to Achilles, and then there was different Jason and the Argonauts, and it was us kind of like fighting uh, the baddies, Kronos, and all this stuff, but set in a modern time. And it
I,
was it just looked cool. I loved the characters, and I loved that it taught about Greek mythology and things like that. It was like educational, but not like hitting you over the head with it, and still fun.
yeah,
And I thought like I loved all the character designs, and that was a show that never really got legs. That well, I'm not gonna say that it didn't get legs. It just I don't think it was. We still have hardcore Class of the Titan fans out there that will talk about it, but like I say, mostly they're in Australia, they're in Canada. So those are a couple projects that I did that I would have loved to have seen get more love. But
I've seen that show actually, and but I didn't
Class
know that you were a part of it. So that is incredible. Wow, I've seen Clash
Class
of
of the
Titans. Yeah,
Titans. Yeah, I
yes.
was Archie, the purple haired guy,
Wow,
and
that that is
with the blue hoodie.
that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so cool. Are you a big
yeah.
Greek mythology person?
Not particularly. I probably learned more about Greek mythology just working on the show. It's not like you know how you go through, well, if you do theater and things like that, you have to kind of go through the classics, and you're looking at Homer and Odyssey and all that stuff, and then kind of falls into the Greek stuff. But I wasn't like obsessively into Greek mythology. Um, I probably learned more doing that show just because of the show. So
Wow,
I wasn't like a classics like fanatic or anything like that. No, but it was
that's
cool. It was
interesting.
cool to learn though.
Yeah, I do recall that show. It's
Yeah.
interesting that you were the archer because I really liked the character Achilles in mythology. I wrote a book about the character Achilles, and that's just a coincidence that you played
Well,
that
like I
character.
say, I think all the episodes are on YouTube now. So if you've got,
And
if you
Tubi.
got
I remember also that, on
yeah,
Tubi as
if you got
well.
some time, just go. I think there's like 52 of them or something. Just slowly go through them. I think they're pretty cool.
Yes, they are.
They're not like obsessed with like this full action packed kind of thing. Like they pace a little slower than like the demand. People just want constant fighting and action all the time. It's not that way. So I think that that's also a thing that maybe could have hurt it is that people wanted just more instantaneous like boom, boom, boom action all the time, and it didn't really play that way. It was more, I thought it was just more, there was more storytelling than just pure action. So, but it sounds like it might interest you though.
No, I've seen it as I mentioned, but I didn't know that you were a part of that. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
But with all these projects that you're involved in, how much liberty do you have to mention something to the writers that, oh, I think this would be an interesting branch for the story?
Not really. No, we're there. We're not really getting in there and giving input on characters and how we think our characters go this way or that way. I mean, not in my, the closest I had to that kind of collaboration, like I go back to Endangered Species, was we were initially going in and helping develop the characters a little bit through some kind of experimental recordings before it was like concretized, and that was probably a unique experience that I've had in animation where it was almost kind of like cast. We were kind of cast already, and we were just honing the characters and before we actually did the show, and that's very rare in well, in my experience in the industry is where you are participating on that level. Um, you might change. You might think. I mean, a lot of times you go, oh, I know this is actor things like I don't think my actor would say that or my character would say that. But there are some times when something might feel a little off in the script, like doesn't sound very whatever the character is, and you might make suggestion to change a word or two. But generally, the script is established, and you're going in there just to follow the story and how it goes for the most
Mm.
part. I'd say, yeah.
So even with Martin Mystery, it was just you reading the script, no input.
Yeah, no, honestly,
Wow.
it's just you get the script, that's the story for today, and then you're just trying to, make sure that the producers and the voice directors are happy with what you're doing. And Martin Mystery, it was just more his challenge was keeping his energy up, right? Because he was full enthusiastic, like he's just so excited. Come on, let's do this. We gotta go. Come on, Die. Are you kidding me? This is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Oh man, I can. Come on, Billy, Jeff, what are we doing? He's like running 100 miles a minute just to like. He
Yeah.
wants to get out there and he's always playing pranks on Diana or whatever. He was just the thing I liked him is that he was a total goofball. You know what I mean? Like he loved the investigation. He was smart about what he was doing. He knew everything about everything when it came to the paranormal. But he was just a big goofball. That was the most fun thing about him. It was just, he just was all about the fun and
I'm
we could
glad you
see it.
mentioned that part. That captures the genius of Martin Mystery. He was a fun goofball, but when it was time to work, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was
Oh
on
yeah,
point with it.
he was an expert in his field and, not everybody believe. I mean, there's that kind of classic thing, it goes back to like X Files, the Mulder and Scully thing, the believer and the skeptic, right? And Diana played kind of that was her role is to go, okay, Martin, I don't think that's the story. Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Look at all this slime everywhere. There's definitely some kind of paranormal activity going on here, Die. You know, so that
Yeah.
was that was the style, yeah.
I know it was 3 seasons, but how much time did you actually work on that? Was it 3 years or?
Oh man, probably, it's hard to remember how we set it up, but usually we'd probably tackle it usually doing like 22 episodes per season or whatever. Can't forget, some shows were basically broken down to 13 episodes, or you do 22 or 26 or 65 was like the holy grail. Like 65 episodes, woohoo, right? Because that was kind of what you needed for um being able to show them over and over again. So, but I would say it probably span over 3 years. Probably, I'm gonna think maybe 3 years if I can remember correctly. Probably took
In
about
all
3 years.
the projects that you've been a part of,
Mm.
do you rewatch the episodes or your work is just doing the voice and you move on?
I think when I was younger, I would just do it and move on. I didn't really obsess about. In the beginning, when I first did voice work, it's a novelty. Like it was just, oh my gosh, I'm in a cartoon. I gotta check this out. So I remember the first time I ever. I don't know if I'm trying to remember. First time I kind of remember sitting down to watch something that was broadcasting like like back in the day when you had to tune in to a certain time and a certain channel to watch your show. I did a show called it was called ZZ Bots in the beginning, but then became called the Bots Master. And I remember specifically tuning in to watch that just to go, wow, that's me. I'm in a voice. Yay. And doing that with, I remember doing that with Baby Looney Tunes too, was to like, I got to watch this when it's being put on TV. And then after a while, it becomes like, oh, I wouldn't get obsessed about seeing all the stuff that I'm in. I would just do my job. And sometimes I would see it and that was cool. But now I'm at a different age now. You get nostalgic about stuff. You think about your life, and also because so many people are interested in certain things that I honestly did 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, and I feel like they are watching all that material still over and over. Like some of them will just, well, I've seen that show. I've watched it 3 or 4 times. I mean, I love all the episodes. And I just want to be able to have a dialogue with them about certain things. I don't want to feel like I can't remember everything or possibly rewatch all the stuff that I've done because it's just I won't have any time in the day to do other stuff. But certain things I do like to go back and also remember doing it. Trust me, you seem like you're a young person. Um, but when you get to my age, you start to want to go back and remember stuff. It is like going through a photo album a little bit. And want to look back at stuff and go, oh yeah, that and be able to just talk to people about the stuff that they love. You remember that moment when this happened, and then I just want to be like, no, I don't remember. So I want to be able to, at least to some degree, be go, yes, I remember that, and blah blah blah, and so and also, people, if you do, like I do Cameo, I do, people ask voice requests, and, it's important to give them um, what they want to. So, you have to be kind of like familiar with the stuff that you've done to some degree, so you can, you know, give them what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and
When
yeah,
you, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, I'm done.
Okay. When you look back at these things that you've been a part of, do you think they help inform you to give better performances with the stuff you do now, or no effect?
Mm, I would. I don't know if I'm definitely not looking at them to like, um, yeah, to try and improve on current performances. I wouldn't say so. Uh, no, I mean, I just looking at them back for just for my own amusement and refreshing my memory, and having, yeah, like I say, having more admiration for the things that were done back then, and an appreciation for everybody else that I worked with too. Like some people that I work with are no longer with us, and so it's nice to go back and watch their work too, and have memories about what it was like working with them, being in the studio with them. So that's part of the reason too that I like to do it. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you've lost touch with any of your voices of characters that you've ever done?
Um, I mean, not really. I mean, I've had to have my memory jarred a couple of times by people because I was just at a convention recently where someone was talking about a show that it's not want to say I forgot about it, but it was like, whoa, because maybe it didn't come up. There was this anime show called Dragon Drive that I did, and and for this person, Dragon Drive was everything. They were like, this is the show. This is the show changed me. This show changed my life. And I'm going, wow. And then I see show me a picture of the character. Oh my God, yes, yes, Daisuke, Dragon Drive. Oh my goodness. And I got to watch all those shows again. And she gave me a little flash drive. She says, here, I've got them all here. You can watch them at home. She gave me this flash drive so I can watch all the episodes again. So I'm like, that's one of the things I got to do and refresh my brain on that. So yeah, that happens. I don't know. Did I answer your question correctly? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The reason I asked that question is because I'm a writer, and sometimes I wouldn't say I get afraid, but sometimes I wonder when I look back at my writings, can I still do the same thing but in a new way?
Right.
Maybe it's like a scarcity fear, a fear of scarcity or something like that. I'm not sure how to put it into words, but the point I wanted to bring it to is there's this thing that Charles Bukowski says, which is, "Who the F said you don't have it in you anymore?" And I think that's a very powerful thing for artists. Is if you ever feel like you lose touch with who you once were, don't let that fear overtake you. You still have it in you. It's just who you are. It will forever continue.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is there's a natural progression in the industry when it comes to voice acting, is that, you know, there's always, as you get older and you progress through your career professionally, to say, it's just, it's like, how do you judge how successful you are? Is it how many shows you're on? Is it your actual ability and talent? Because there's lots of voice actors who've been in this business for years and years and years, and they're not necessarily working as they much as they did in the zenith of their, like, let's say, their 20s and 30s. There's just a natural progression in voice acting, and the quality of their voices might still be good, their skill level. It's just that's the industry. That's the way the industry goes, which is one thing. Um, but for me personally, when it, like you say, you're talking about writing. For me, performing, I never stop learning. And for me, that means that I don't, you know, for me, it's like I like to explore other, like, voice acting, how the dubs are in Spanish. So I watch Spanish cartoons, and that whole industry there. I'm starting to explore that and understand that, and want to learn more about that and improve my own ability to speak another language or whatever. The journey never ends. So you never stop learning. This whole perception of how other people perceive you might be different, like with your writing. But writing, like you say, or any kind of art, unless it's a physical thing, you know what I mean? Like dancers, at some point the body is going to give out, and you're not going to be able to perform at that. And being athletes, there's this physical limitation there. And even with the voice, your voice might change. You might not sound, my thing is I do a lot of young sounding voices, and fortunately I'm still able to do those voices, right? But at some point that might change. My voice might, I try and take care of myself as much as possible. But that doesn't mean that I won't be able to do incredibly interesting voices. They just might sound more mature and whatever, more textured or whatever, in that way. So writing, art, it never changes. People can say, oh well, you're over the hill or this or that. That's just all in their main. That's in their minds, and there's never any new territory that can't be explored. You know, you'll know it if you're rehashing over things. Sometimes, you're doing your job and this is what you've been paid to do, so do this, and maybe it's something that you feel like you've done several times before, and you're not like, oh, this isn't so, it's like, oh, this isn't innovative, and this is so, I'm busting barriers and this and that. It's not about that. It's about making sure you're doing your job, getting paid a paycheck and do your thing. And then, if you're doing something more experimental or out there, that's, who knows, maybe that's a side project you're doing with friends or for your own pleasure, which is a good. And to add to that, especially now with all these platforms, to do things. If you always wanted to experiment with something, you can do it. You may not get the audience you want, but you're free to try and do. Like even with writing, with whatever, with art, put it out there.
Yeah.
That's the way. That's just my opinion on that.
No, thanks for sharing that. That's a great one. And I recently read something from Rick Rubin where he said something along the lines of sometimes the value of making something is just a therapeutic one. That's all it needs to be for you, maybe. And I think that's really something to think about. We've been talking so much about these projects, but how did you first get involved in this industry? What got you in? Why did you want to get in?
I got in very early, and a lot of it had to do with just, you know, good fortune in the sense that I was at, right place, right time. Where in high school, my brother and I were always kind of, goofball kids, performing, putting skits on, doing funny voices, whatever, just what a lot of kids do, imagination play. Um, and, when you have a brother or sibling, you guys are we're always playing off one another and trying to one up each other, that kind of scenario. And got started in doing theater in high school, doing plays, and I had a friend who was already working with a theater company that was specifically for young people, Vancouver Youth Theater. And the woman who ran that um, theater also had a side agency, specifically talent agency, specifically for young people. And I basically went in and got an agent. I think at the age of 15, I got an agent, a talent agent for auditioning for on camera work. So I had my first professional job as an actor at age 15, working on this show that was called Wise Guy, which was like an episodic show that was filming in Vancouver, because in Vancouver in the 80s, the film industry was starting to develop, and more productions were coming up here to save money, and we were building our infrastructure slowly and steadily. And then eventually I got my first audition for a cartoon, which I did not realize was even a possibility, and it was for an anime show called Dragon Warrior, which was called Dragon Quest in Japan, but they called it Dragon Warrior here. And that was my first job ever for animation, and I dubbed 13 episodes of the show, and then just started to audition more for cartoons. And then I think my first prelay series was Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars, and chipping away at it, doing some on-camera work, and I just was getting a lot of success with the voice work, so I just kind of gravitated towards that, and just slowly built my career up over the years doing voice work.
On
So
your
that's kind of how
journey,
it went.
what's been the best advice you received?
Best advice that I received, I, honestly, the advice I received was, it was, it's interesting because I didn't like when I was doing voice work, or you know, it was working with a lot of people in the studio who were just in the same place as me, learning how to do this job of voice acting. Like, we were kind of learning how to do it, what was the protocol, the mic technique, being in a studio, all these things were, and a lot of people who had somehow were being having success from with the voice work, they came from initially from theater backgrounds. They're on camera, but a lot of people who were doing radio work, because they're already comfortable in the world of radio and ads, and they already had some experience and talent with that. So, you know, the the advice, well, just sometimes it's just be quiet, which is hard for a voice actor to do, and just watch and learn and listen. I just absorbed a lot. I just watched what everybody was doing, observe what they're doing, and then steal their stuff. That's how I worked. That's how we did. Oh, that was good. I like that. I'm gonna try that later. Or no, it's just absorbing, and obviously you're looking up to people with, at the time had a little bit more experience than myself, and just figuring it out how they did it, and learning. And yeah, so you know I had good influences in theater in high school. I had a couple of really good drama teachers who, one, it was interesting. I had one drama teacher who was British and very kind of like classically trained, um, but very cool, not stuffy, but still there's like that kind of classic British uh, drama teacher. It's all about diction, bit of butter, bit of butter, bit of butter. And then my other drama teacher, was the complete opposite. He was kind of like from the same hood, like East Van. He was really young and he knew how to just click with the kids, and they really looked up to him. And he was more like that kind of like, oh, right from the gut, the heart, kind of like more, you know, old school Pacino De Niro method kind of like sensibilities. And he had a lot of heart when it came to teaching and drama and acting, and I absorbed a lot, and I did some assistant directing with him on some plays, and I like passion. That was the thing about it, passion. Picking something that people cared about was a lot that I got out of him too.
Wow.
Yeah.
And with those people, those teachers, did you ever get in touch with them after everything that you've done? And what was that interaction like?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen my drama teacher like Judith Hogan for a long time. I hadn't run into her at all. But then I would see my other teacher, Oscar, because we were kind of still in the same hood neighborhood, and yeah, the people are happy. That's the way it is, kind of like with the high school thing is when you get older and you have some success, people are happy for you, or they like to know that people went on to. I think people at because I was heavily into the drama department and all that stuff, people had a sensibility that maybe I was gonna, you know, continue to go that way with acting and my career. So I definitely did stick with it, which was nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there something about yourself that you feel like you wish more people would know?
Huh. Would know. Hmm. Um. I don't know. Not really. I mean, people kind of see that what I'm doing out there is I'm still in this business doing animation and the voices. I love to uh, I love collecting. I love thrifting and looking for toys. I still like there's part of me that's still a big kid that loves all that stuff. And I love, I do toy shows with my wife. We go and we find toys and then we resell them and stuff. And I just, for me, I just love the interaction with the young people and the kids who are really into their things. And I love seeing them get excited about stuff. So that's really something that you know I love and enjoy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just doing living my life and doing my voice work and going to well, now this year I'm going to some more conventions with the other ads and meeting fans, which is kind of nice. Now this is nice. I'm getting out there and meeting a lot of younger people who are, well, younger. They're in their 30s or whatever, and now they were they were kids when they watched a lot of my stuff, and now they're grown and
Yeah,
they're having an opportunity to express how fun it was for them to watch this stuff when they were growing
yeah,
up. So that's I like that.
you know, it's so interesting because when I was a kid, I did watch some of Ed, Ed and Eddie, but it didn't connect with me.
Hmm.
But Martin Mystery did, and
Yeah.
you're a part of both of those. Baby Looney Tunes, that connected with me as a kid, and I just think it's so fascinating that creatives can be a part of so many different projects, and they don't know which one affects who and how, but it does eventually. And it's just something so beautiful about that. Are there any projects when you were a kid that inspired you and you met those people or interacted with those people?
Um, I never. I'm trying to think of who. I mean, as a young actor, like if I go back to my childhood, there's nobody I really met later on in life that I could say was like a big um part of, like, I really liked Jim Henson as a kid, all the stuff that he did, and by extension of that, people like Frank Oz, who did a lot of the voices um, in the Muppets, and Sesame Street. I never met them, or obviously I was a Star Wars kid, so I never met anybody associated with Star Wars, um, the originals. But growing up as a high school student, I remember when we did 21 Jump Street. Johnny Depp was a young actor that a lot of people were kind of looking up to. So that was kind of cool to just like, you know, work in that environment with Johnny Depp. That was kind of inspiring as a young person.
Because that was in Vancouver as well, and
Hmm.
you actually worked with them at that time.
Yeah, on Jump Street, there was
Wow,
most there were so many all the different high schools were in Vancouver were being used as sets.
wow,
So and obviously it all involved teenagers, right, for the most part. So at that time I was, you know, well, I was like 19, 20, young enough still to look like I was in high school. So, those are the parts you're going for, are these high school students parts on shows like 21 Jump Street. So, he was kind of the big deal in town, so you wanted a chance to work with him or be on the set with him. Just that's what it was like, right? Being a young actor, you're looking up to these people. So, that was fun. And
wow,
yeah, I've had on camera, I've had some positive experiences working with people that, are great, great actors. I had an opportunity to work with Donald Sutherland before he passed about 5 years ago on a show called Ice. Had some scenes with him, and that was great experience to work with him. And then Lance Henriksen, who he was in Aliens, and he's been in tons of stuff. I love Lance Henriksen. I worked with him on a show called Millennium, and he was very encouraged. I was a young guy. He was very encouraging and really nice to work with as well because he was, you know, kind of like an actor's actor. Good guy. So
wow.
I've had chances to work with some people that I admire their abilities as performers, and that's always good
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
man, that is so cool. I mean, you've inspired me in so many ways in a different vein, and then Johnny Depp, another one in a different vein. And I didn't even know that you guys worked together, or you and the other actors. I didn't even know you guys worked together. And again, it just I think speaks to the beauty of being a creative. Everybody inspires in their own way, and maybe they work together in different ways, and it's ineffable. You can never say enough about how beautiful it is to be a part of the creative process.
Yeah, well, creatives are creative, so you would know that, you could have someone who's primarily known for on-camera acting, and they could be obsessed with anime, or they could be obsessed with comics or some other thing, right? So they could be, or writing, they could be huge into a certain novelist, writer, and you wouldn't know that because they don't, unless people directly ask them, well, what are your passions? And so for them, they might be like a total thrill for them to meet some voice actor from this show, and then or they might be, oh my God, I can't believe you're the storyboard artist for this. I love that. So that's the thing is there's so much cross pollination going on.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. It's like we're all bees in our own different
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, for
So
sure.
cool. Well, Sam, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I was
Thank
wondering,
you. Thanks for asking some very nice questions. Great stuff.
no, yeah, I appreciate that. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
Um, no, I think that like I say, my journey this year is I'm continuing to work on Ninjago Dragons Rising. That's the kind of the one show I'm doing right now, and I'm very excited about the direction of the show and all the evolution, all the characters. So the season 3 is dropping on Netflix the in 3 weeks or something like that, very soon. And then just being on the road, doing a few shows in different cities, People can check me out on Instagram at Samuel Vincent Coot, Khouth. I'll be making announcements about, where we're headed, which cities. And yeah, yeah, it's a great year of just connecting with people, connecting with their passions. Maybe I'll somebody will tell me about another show I forgot about, and they'll have to go and watch it. So it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So
Yeah,
uh,
I'm happy that you're out there, especially on the social media platforms. It's so amazing. As I said, Martin Mystery was really one of my favorite cartoon shows growing up. And so to be able to access you and be able to interact with you, it's really, it speaks to the times we're living in. It's awesome.
it's awesome. Yeah, I'm speaking to Mark. It's the thing with the conventions too is that we have different prints of different characters, and it's like I'm the more feedback I'm getting from people, it's like, oh, I better have a Martin Mystery print there, or else, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm learning about all this stuff right before I had this. Oh, people are saying Martin Mystery. I better have something ready because there's always and another show. I'll just throw it out there is a show that's called Slug Terra, and that's a show that there's certain fans of that show that go, I love Slug Terra was the best. So I'm like, right, gotta have a Slug Terra print. So it's slowly, you know, putting it out there for people. So it's good though. But I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about Martin Mystery because honestly, that was one of the more just fun, a lot of fun doing that show. Just a lot
Yeah.
of
A lot of
fun.
nostalgia for me. A lot.
Yeah, a lot of good memories. Just a fun character to play. He was just a lot of
Yeah.
fun for sure.
Yeah. One last thing. My
Yeah.
brother Hamza, he's probably a bigger fan of Martin Mystery than me. Do you mind
Really?
giving him a shout out in the voice of Martin?
Sure. Hey, Hamza! This is Martin Mystery. Listen, I really need your help, okay? Okay, Di, she's busy with her homework, and Jav, well, he's way too tired to come out of his cave to help me, and Billy went back to his home planet, so I'm all by myself. Mom called me and says, you gotta investigate something that's happening in this dark friggin' forest, and I'm like, well, I guess I could go by myself, but I really need some help. Would you be my like, my side wing dude, Hamza, please. I'm sure there's gonna be lots of slime. It's gonna be so cool. So, what do you say? You want to go on an investigation with me?
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that was it. So I
Cool.
appreciate this. Do you have any questions, or anything
No,
else?
no, man. Just keep on doing what you're doing, and good luck with your writing. And you can find me on Instagram if you ever want to message me or whatever.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah. If my writings ever cross-pollinate with something else, well, they'll know that Martin Mystery had some hand in it,
You bet. And
eh?
yeah, if I'm ever back in Houston, I'll let you know.
Sounds good. All
All
right.
right.
Oh, one last thing. Coot.
Yeah.
That's such a cool name. What does that mean? What's the origin?
It's something that most people never guess. It's from Cambodia.
Wow.
Yeah, my grandfather on my father's side is Cambodian, and so I'm part Asian.
I would never have guessed, but
Yeah,
that's
I
so
know.
cool.
Yeah, so my father was actually born in Cambodia. My biological father was born in Cambodia.
Oh,
So it's
cool.
yeah, and I go by Vincent. Um, I just decided to make Sam Vincent. My brother went by Coot. But I decided to go with. I used to go with Sam Coot early in my career, and I decided to switch over just to Sam Vincent. But yeah, Coot, Cambodian.
Cool. Didn't know it.
Yeah,
Well, you take care.
yeah,
Enjoy a
you too.
beautiful Vancouver Monday, and
All
I'll let
right,
you know when it releases.
all right. Say hi to your bro for me.
Awesome. Take care.
Ciao.